With us today is Stephen Lough, the president of the Seattle Electric Vehicle Association, or SEVA. How exactly did you get involved in electric cars?
Well, that's kind of a long story. I'll give you the short version. When I was about 6 years old, my dad gave me an electric train, which I ruined in a matter of days, and he got mad and threw all the pieces into a box. But when I was about 8 years old, I started to take the pieces out and figure out, hey, 2 wires makes the light up. And that followed into high school. I got involved with ham radio, and then during the Vietnam time, I actually taught electronics for the Army back east. And then coming back to work at the family dealership after the war, as they say, in 1979 and 80, at the tail end of the last gas crisis we had, the journals would say, become an electric car dealer. And I went, that would be one way to put my passion for electronics and technology together with my father's, 45 years of being a car dealer. So we talked my sister, my mother, my father into getting a line of electric cars from a little dealer in Massachusetts. And that's how it got started.
Way back then, though, I would imagine that maybe a lot of people might have thought you were kind of crazy.
Well, at the gas crisis, there was a lot of publicity. One of the first rallies we had, electric car rally in 1981, we had 3 television stations, a private film crew, 2 radio stations, and we had 14 cars participate. And the format was that we went around this 3-mile loop, taking the lay public for a 3-mile ride in an electric car to prove the point that, hey, these things can get you to work and back. No, you can't drive to Disneyland. You probably couldn't get the Snoqualmie Pass, but you can get back and forth to work. And at that time, there was a lot of interest, but it really fell off during the Reagan administration and stuff after that. But that's how I got started.
That's really interesting. I would imagine since then, electric cars have really taken on a whole lot of different looks, just like regular cars. Have those looks been able to utilize some of the newer technology to make them more efficient?
Just now. Well, actually, let's go back to the California Clean Air initiatives of the 90s. This was a real boon to electric vehicles because California being such a large market, the manufacturers more or less had to, drum up some electric cars. So Honda, General Motors, Chrysler, Toyota, they all had electric vehicles on the showroom floors in the 90s. But at the same time, they fought the legislation because they didn't like to be forced to build electric vehicles. But there was a lot of interest then. And the famous GM car, the EV1, the movie, Who Killed the Electric Car, this all happened in the 90s. Funny you should mention that because some of our members are still driving factory-built electric vehicles built in the 90s. And they're going for more money used on eBay than they sold for originally.
Now, when you're saying electric back in the 90s, are we talking fully electric?
Yes, fully electric.
And now kind of the more trend is toward hybrid cars.
Well, I think the manufacturers, especially Toyota, they beat the pants off of the Americans to the punch there, saw that fuel efficiency was important, and my little Honda inside-outside can get 70 miles per gallon in a mixed, electric and gasoline mode, and the Toyotas get around 40 to 50. One of the next step, though, is to have a hybrid that has a plug, whereby you can maybe drive 10, 15, 20 miles a day, pure electric, and still, if on a moment's notice you had to go to Spokane, it would just turn back into a gas car automatically, just like they do now. But all your daily driving, which for King County is like maybe a 30-mile average per day, could be electric, and that would have an incredible impact on pollution and our use of foreign oil if the major manufacturers started to build plug-in hybrids.
Well, that brings up a good point, because I guess I've never really researched in depth what a hybrid car is and what makes it a hybrid. How do they work?
There's electric motors, generators, and batteries. And most of the fuel we waste, and by the way, every dollar you put in your tank, 80 cents goes up in smoke and heat, okay? So the manufacturers, like Toyota said, and Honda said, if we could recapture energy when a car comes to a stop, and then use that energy to get the car going, and then use the gas engine to just go along a nice steady 30 or 40 or 60 or 80 miles an hour at the sweet spot, boy, the efficiency would go up. And so that's what's happening. The electric motors and the batteries are merely capturing the energy when you go down a hill or come to a stop, and then giving it back to you when you hit the accelerator, okay? And that stop and go is where we waste most of the fuel. On an even keel, even a Cadillac can get 25 miles per gallon at a nice cool 65 miles an hour on the level.
Never stopping. Got to jump out
to stopping, right. So that's what hybrid's about. But if we had a large enough battery pack to extend that electric drive part, maybe up to 30 or 40 miles an hour, and the gas would only be there for the long trips or the really, really hard acceleration or pulling a horse trailer or something like that, then we could gain that efficiency, because an electric motor system is about 5 times more efficient than a gas car. Another way to put it, I said that your brand new modern car out front here is throwing away 80 cents out of every dollar you put in it, all right? Now, electric car is not perfect either. You lose a little bit getting the power to your house, putting the power into the batteries, taking the power out of the batteries, running it through the electric motor. It's not perfect, but it's about 80% perfect. You only lose about 20%. So that's 5 times better.
If your regular car loses 80% of the fuel, does a hybrid lose that amount, or does it lose less?
Less, because we're mixing a little bit of electric drive with the gas drive. So that's why, my Honda gets 70 miles per gallon, and a good Toyota with a careful driver can get 50 plus.
Well, there are different kinds of vehicles besides just hybrid vehicles and just straight electric cars. What are some other modes of transportation that are electric now?
Well, basically our organization really likes to see more transit, more bicycles, more efficient use of land, and work closer to your house. All those things we go along with. The other types of vehicles, as far as getting away from Middle East oil, would be the biofuels, the biodiesels, the used veggie oil, ethanol, which is alcohol, both made from grains and plants. There are estimates, though, that those two things, ethanol and biodiesel, could never meet our total need for fuel worldwide, even if we planted the whole planet in linseed oil. It's just not there. It's just not enough.
You definitely have to have a hybrid of some sort where you utilize...
We'll have to go with wind generation and solar generation. There is no limit on solar and wind. If we wanted to, we could replace the whole American grid with solar and wind.
Which then puts it into the electric grid, which means that you're going to have an electric-powered car rather than a biodiesel or a...
Right. Some of the heavier equipment, like boats and trains and big trucks, will probably be biofuel, some kind of hybridization. The military, I just saw on the computer this morning, is showing off their newest hybrid electric military vehicles. They'll be hybrids for as far into the future as we can see, I think. There's been a lot of money wasted on hydrogen. This administration, not to get real political, but they've wasted a lot of time and money on what we call fuel cells. Here's the deal. You have to make hydrogen. Yes, it's the most ubiquitous element in the universe, but you have to make it. It's always connected with something else. It's connected with water. It's connected with hydrocarbon fuels. So if you want hydrogen, you have to use electricity or some other energy to take off the hydrogen. Then you have to store the hydrogen. You have to ship the hydrogen to the Texaco or Shell station. You have to sell the hydrogen to the poor fool that just bought a $100,000 fuel cell car. And once the hydrogen gets into the car, then we have to turn it back into electricity.
So it takes a whole lot of extra energy really, to fuel with hydrogen.
It's almost, from what we say, from well to wheels, it's almost as bad as gasoline.
But it doesn't get into the atmosphere.
It doesn't pollute. At the car, hydrogen fuel cell cars are electric cars. They're making the electricity as they go along. What they're doing is they're taking oxygen from the air and using the hydrogen that you bought from Shell, you're putting it back together and making water. And in the process, the electricity comes back out. It's kind of like, you know, in and out. But it's just not efficient when you look at the whole picture.
As far as efficiency is concerned, when you're using other fuels like the ethanol and the bio, do they have different levels of efficiency just like hydrogen does?
Well, diesel is more efficient than gas by about 10 or 20%.
Just regular diesel?
Yeah. And that holds true for biodiesel. Do you know who Diesel was? He was a German guy, and he had the idea, grow your flaxseed on your property, squeeze out the oil, power your tractor with your own fuel. The original diesels were run on vegetable oil.
Wow.
Yeah. And when diesel fuel was a waste product, when the petroleum industry got started, and they said, hey, maybe we could run this on that guy Diesel's invention. And it worked. And so there, all the electric trains in L.A. disappeared when General Motors, you know, just forced them out.
But when you think of diesel as opposed to regular gas, you can smell a diesel car when it goes by you or a diesel boat, so it may be more efficient, but does it pollute more?
There are small microscopic particulates that are really bad, yeah. Veggie diesels are not as bad. Yeah, but there's still stuff involved with that.
Now, I have some friends that have gone on this kick, and they've said, hey, we're going to take our car and we're going to turn it into a biodiesel vehicle. What does it take to take a normal car? I mean, can you really do that? I'm
not an expert in that, although being in the alternative fuel stuff, we've studied that, and most of our friends, a lot of friends are into that. I think all that need be done is some retuning, maybe some different gaskets, some normal gaskets that a normal diesel vehicle uses are sensitive to vegetable oil, where they're not sensitive to... So there are a few changes, but I think any older diesel, like an older Mercedes or an older Volkswagen, can just run straight away on it. Yeah.
Wow.
But again, the efficiency is not there. For every gallon of biodiesel or real diesel or gasoline, that internal combustion, those pistons going up and down, and the oil changes, and the mufflers, and the cooling, you still have losses. Maybe it's only 70% on a diesel, where it's 80% on a gas car, but you're still losing most of the energy that's originally in that fuel.
Definitely what it really comes down to is we really want to look into the hybrids or just straight electric vehicles.
Right. Exactly.
What kind of impact does it have on the community for more straight electric vehicles to go on?
That's been a topic of discussion for a long time, but there's been just recently, about 3 months ago, a study was made, the possible impact on our power grid. Let's say 50, 60, 70, 80% of the people went electric or hybrid electric or plug-in hybrid electric. Could we maintain that without, turning everything upside down? And the study said that up to, I think it was close to 70% of all the cars and trucks, the light cars and trucks, could be electric or hybrid electric or plug-in electric without building any more power plants. So, I've been at this for 27 years. And there are only probably less than a couple hundred electric cars in Seattle. I don't think it's anything we have to worry about into the way, way, way future.
Till more people really get on board.
I mean, until oil runs out, until we have to go pure electric, then there may have to be some more windmills and more solar power plants.
But as far as reducing our carbon footprint, so to speak, individually.
Absolutely. That's a win-win-win right there. Right? I mean, even there have been arguments like, well, in the Midwest, we don't have hydropower and very little solar and wind. All the power comes from the coal plant. So you're just moving the exhaust from the car to the coal plant. But, and here's something very important, even if, let's say you had 10,000 electric cars in Minneapolis or in the Midwest, compare 10,000 gas cars with 10,000 cars being powered by the coal plant. Still less emissions. It's still less emissions. Why? Back to that efficiency factor of 5 to 1.
Yeah. A lot of people think that switching from a regular, their big, huge suburban, big SUVs, that it would be too difficult to change to an electric vehicle. How does an electric vehicle change your own lifestyle?
Well, instead of spending 5, 6, 7 minutes at a gas station a week, it's about 30 seconds in the morning and 30 seconds in the evening to plug it in and unplug it.
And will that raise your utility bill that you have?
Sure. But remember, 5 to 1. My car, which we'll show pictures of later, that I had, is a 70-mile-an-hour sports car. Had about 30 or 40 miles of range. Built it myself with some help from the experimental college and a bunch of volunteers. Simple lead-acid batteries, not the new batteries we're going to talk about. Simple lead-acid battery. I think the whole battery pack only cost me $9.95 for the whole car. 20 batteries, 20 big batteries. I had a separate watt-hour meter on my garage, right out back here. So as I did my 15 miles a day, I could see exactly how many kilowatts I was burning. It came to about $250 a year.
A year.
$250 a year.
I was about ready to go, that's a lot.
Yeah.
A year.
Right.
So you built this car. That sounds interesting.
That's one of the main thrusts of our club is because General Motors hasn't built one you can buy yet, or Toyota, if you really want to drive on the freeway with an electric car, what you have to do is you pick a car. In our club, we've got guys got a VW Vanagon, a Mazda Miata sports car, several Geo Metros, several small S10 pickups, Ford Ranger pickups.
So pretty much any car.
Yeah, any small car can be converted. Hardware, $8,000 or $9,000. Labor, $2,000 or $3,000. Kind of depends on how fast you want to go and what kind of car it is. So bottom line, somewhere between $10,000 to $13,000, you can take a small car and give yourself a freeway-capable electric car.
Purely electric.
Purely electric.
And how long do you think that, well, you could do the math, I guess, at $250 a year.
Well, yeah.
How long it would take you to pay off the extra?
Yeah, I don't think you can really make an economic case.
No.
You know, if General Motors mass-produced electric cars, or the Chinese maybe, mass-produced electric cars, at gas going up to $3, maybe $4 a gallon in the near future, you could say, I'm saving money now.
Yeah, well, it's not really about saving money as much as it's about reducing your carbon footprint and helping the atmosphere.
And there's a real ego thing. I mean, drive around. I'm electric. You know, I'm silent. I'm nearly silent. You know.
I'd think it would be more of an ego thing. I built this.
Yeah, well, that too. Most of the guys in the club. And by the way, this club is just one club of maybe several dozen clubs nationwide under what's called the Electric Auto Association.
And we're talking about SEVA, correct?
Yeah, SEVA is just one chapter of dozens of clubs nationwide and in Canada. And for the folks that are computer savvy, you can just go www.eaaev.org. And all the chapters, lots of information, our chapter, can be had at that.
So it's not just a whole bunch of people taking cars and converting them electric and then going, 20 miles per hour down the road. There are different...
Oh, no. These 20. We are just that far, in electric drag bikes, dragster bikes, bicycle big as beating as the fastest fuel dragster electric bike in the world.
In racing.
Yeah. We're only about 3 seconds off his time. This is Bill Dubé out of the Midwest. He's running on A123 lithium batteries. He's turning over 150 miles an hour in a quarter mile. 0 to 60 in under 1 second.
On an electric car.
Electric bicycle, motorcycle.
A motorcycle.
The wheel on the back is that big. The guy that drives it is obviously young.
And crazy.
And I got another friend that's been written up in the Wall Street Journal just 2 weeks ago, John Wayland in Portland, Oregon, and he's got a little Datsun that he's been perfecting over the years. It's turning over 106 miles an hour in a quarter mile, up against Corvettes, 5-liter Mustangs. I could show you on YouTube. He went up against a 454 V8 in a Pontiac Tempest. I mean, the ground shakes when this guy comes up to the line.
If someone wanted to watch that on YouTube, how would they search it?
Plasma Boy Racing.
Plasma Boy Racing.
Plasma Boy, because he's burned up some engines and some electric motors, and what happens when the arcing starts, it turns into plasma and goes and just ruins a $1,500 motor in a few seconds.
So it sounds like it's really about kind of changing the public image of what an electric car is. I know that we all see these little teeny cars that you can't even move in.
Yeah.
But that's really not what it's about.
No, not totally. But they have a place too. Now, our big event this year was we had 16 electric vehicles at the Finney Ridge Hot Rod Show. So here we are. We're the sheep going right into the lion's den, right?
Yes.
They're wall-to-wall hot rods, as far as the eye could see up and down Greenwood Avenue, and here's 16 electric cars. We were hammered all day long with people asking us questions about how far can it go, how fast can it go. Well, I had driven a neighborhood car there from our dealer here in Seattle, one of our members, MC Electric. Also, there were cars there from the Green Car Company in Kirkland, another member of our association. But I drove this thing for 3 days, and out to Aurora Avenue and back, and picked up my wife and went to the grocery store. And, even though they're only 25, 35-mile-an-hour cars, for around your general area, it works. So I don't want to diss the neighborhood car.
If you want to be a 2-car family, and one car is for long trips and one car is for commuting around town, it would be a great way to go.
Absolutely. And there are more and more of them. I mean, they're selling them. They're busy down there, as we may see. They're real busy.
Well, what are some of the questions that you probably get most from people who just have never really thought about electric vehicles?
Oh, how much power is it going to up my bill? And of course, we talked about that already. It's almost nothing compared to gasoline. Where's the power come from? Are we going to hurt the salmon if we have to build any more dams? Are we going to kill birds if we build any more wind turbines? And those are concerns, yes, but it's so minuscule compared to how many billions have we spent over there in the last 4 years, and we're still not done? I don't want to get too political here, but that is a real mess. I mean, the amount of tax breaks that the oil industry has gotten over the last 50 years. It's just
so
an issue. Yeah.
It really comes down to improving the public image of electric vehicles and realizing what kind of impact they'll have in your own personal life, and is that a trade-off for the kind of impact that we'll have on the Earth and global warming in the end.
Right, exactly.
I hope we've helped to educate people today, and maybe they'll go out and check out some more information about electric vehicles and
There's certainly you can go to www.seattleeva.org to get started here locally anyway. There are also some really cool vehicles that are coming out of smaller companies. Tesla, just go to Google and put in Tesla Roadster. It's a 130-mile-an-hour sports car on a Lotus body that'll out-accelerate a $250,000 Ferrari in a drag race.
Well, it sounds really fascinating.
It's clean.
Sounds really fun. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today. It's been really great talking to you.